Chapter 3, Lesson 6, Write Linear Equations. The cost for 1, 2, 3, and 4 people to go to the zoo is shown in the table. Question number 1 says, is the relationship linear? Explain. Well, in Chapter 3, Section 1, we learned that the relationship is linear if the rate of change is constant. So let's see here. From 1 to 2, we're increasing by 1, 2 to 3, plus 1, and 3 to 4, plus 1. When we go from $13 to $22, that's plus 9. 22 to 31 is also plus 9, and 31 to 40 is also plus 9. So, since the rate of change is constant, this is a linear relationship. What is the slope of the related graph? Well, we know that slope is change in y over change in x. So our change in y was 9, our change in x was 1. 9 over 1 is just 9. So the slope of the related graph would be 9. It says choose an ordered pair, then substitute the values in the equation below. So I'm going to choose this first ordered pair. One person, $13. Then I'm going to substitute the values into this equation. So this was my x and my y. So 13 is equal to 9. M is my slope. 1 was my x. So 13 is equal to 9 multiplied by 1, add b. Solve for b to find the y-intercept. So I have 13 is equal to 9 multiplied by 1, add b. Well, 9 multiplied by 1 is just 9. So if I subtract 9 from both sides, then I get 4 is b. It says write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So y is equal to 9x plus 4. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where you put in just the slope and the y-intercept. Says graph the data from the table on the coordinate plane. So to graph from slope-intercept form, the plus 4 tells me to put a point at plus 4 on my y-axis. And the slope of 9 means I go up 9 and over 1. So I'd go to 13 and 1. I would go to 22 and, or let's look at it. Yep, 22 and 2. $22 for 2 people, $31 for 3 people, and did it give us 4 people? It did. $40 for 4 people. I'm going to connect those points together. And now we have graph our linear equation that we made from this table. Point-slope form of a linear equation. The linear equation y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x subtract x1 is written in point-slope form. So point-slope form is this form here. That's going to be another form that you're going to want to memorize, where x1, y1 is a given point on a non-vertical line and m is the slope. So you have a point and a slope. That's why it's called point-slope form. You can write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form when you know the slope and the y-intercept. You can write an equation of a line in point-slope form when you are given the slope of the coordinates of a point on that line that is not the y-intercept. In example 1, it says write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through -2, 3 with a slope of 4. So all they did was they wrote point-slope form out. Y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x minus x1. And then they inserted the x and y for x1 and y1 and the slope for m. Then they simplified it. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding. They got y subtract 3 is equal to 4 multiplied by x add 2. And example 2 says write the slope-intercept form from the equation in example 1. So here we have the equation in point-slope form. To get it to slope-intercept form, you just want to solve for y. So they wrote out the equation and they distributed the 4. 4 multiplied by x is 4x. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. And then they added 3 to both sides to get the y by itself. They ended up with y is equal to 4x add 11. They did substitute the coordinates of the given point into the equation. So -2 and 3 were substituted for x and y, and they solved the equation to get 3 is equal to 3. In our example 1, it says write the point-slope form of an equation that passes through 2, 4 with a slope of -3/2. So remember, point-slope is y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x subtract x1. So our equation is going to be, remember this is x comma y, so y subtract 4 is equal to -3/2 x subtract 2. And we're done. It just wants you to get comfortable with plugging in a point and a slope into point-slope form, and hopefully you can remember what point-slope form looks like. Example 2 says write the equation y subtract 4 is equal to -3/2 x subtract 2 in slope-intercept form. So this is the same equation we got in example 1. Now it just wants us to write it in slope-intercept form. The first thing I'm going to do is distribute the -3/2. Y subtract 4 is equal to -3/2 x. And -3/2 multiplied by 2 over 1. We can cross cancel the 2. And when we multiply across, -3 multiplied by 1 is -3. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. So we get -3. Now when you plug the -3 in, x subtract -3. Subtracting a negative is like adding, so we end up with x add 3. So add 3. Next, I'm going to add 4 to both sides to get that y by itself. I end up with y is equal to -3/2 add 7. And that is the equation written in slope-intercept form. Go ahead and try got it A, and then resume this video when you're done. Got it A says write an equation in point-slope form and slope-intercept form for the line that passes through -1, 2, and has a slope of -1/2. So I'm going to plug these values into my equation. Y minus y1, so y subtract 2, is equal to m, -1/2, multiplied by x subtract x1. Now, x1 is -1. So it's subtracting a -1 is kind of like adding 1. So let's do x add 1. So that's the equation in slope-intercept. Next, we need to convert it to, actually, sorry, this is the equation in point-slope form. Next, we need to convert it to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite y subtract 2 is equal to -1/2 x, and -1/2 of 1 is -1/2. So y subtract 2 is -1/2 x subtract 1/2. Next, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Okay, y is equal to -1/2 x, -1/2 add 2 is equal to 3/2 or 1 1/2. So there's the equation in point slope and then slope intercept form. Write a linear equation. From slope and a point, substitute the slope m and the coordinates of the point into slope point slope form, which is y minus y1 is equal to n multiplied by x minus x1. From a slope and a y-intercept, substitute the slope m and the y-intercept into y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. If you're writing the equation from a graph, find the y-intercept b and the slope m, then substitute the slope and y-intercept in the slope-intercept form. If you have 2 points, use the coordinates of the points to find the slope, then substitute the slope and the coordinates of one of the points into point-slope form. And if you have a table, like we started with in this section, use the coordinates of the 2 points to find the slope, then substitute the slope and the coordinates of one point into point-slope form. The form you use to write a linear equation is based on the information you are given. In example 3, it says write an equation in point-slope form and slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 8.1 and -2.9. So first they find the slope using the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 9 subtract 1 over -2 subtract 8 is -8/10 or -4/5. Next, they use their slope and one of the points, and they plug that into point-slope form. Y minus 1 is equal to -4/5 x subtract 8. So the point-slope form of the equation is y minus 1 is equal to -4/5 x subtract 8. In slope-intercept form, this is y is equal to -4/5 x plus 37/5. Write an equation in point-slope form and slope-intercept form for a line that passes through 3, 6, and 4, -2. So first, I'm just going to label my 2 points as x1, y1, and x2, y2. Next, I'm going to use slope formula to find my slope. So I know that m is equal to y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. So I'm going to plug in my values. -2 subtract 6 over 4 subtract 3. That's negative 8 over 1, which is negative 8. Next, I'm going to plug in my slope and my x1, y1 into my point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x subtract x1. So y minus 6 is equal to negative 8 multiplied by x subtract 3. So it says write an equation in point slope form and slope intercept form. So here's my point slope form. To write this into slope intercept, first I have to distribute. So I want to get in y equals mx plus b form. So first thing I'm going to do is distribute that 8. So y subtract 6 is equal to negative 8x add 24. The next thing I'm going to do is add 6 to both sides. When I do that, y is equal to negative 8x add 30. And that's my equation in slope-intercept form. So for this one problem, I needed the slope formula, point slope formula, and slope-intercept formula. Go ahead and try got it C and D, and then resume this video when you're done. For got it C, I'm going to start by plugging my points into the slope formula. So y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1 is equal to negative 3 over 3, which is negative 1. Next, I'm going to plug in my slope and my point into point slope form. So y subtract 0 is equal to negative 1, x subtract 3. I'm going to simplify that to y is equal to, well, I need to solve for y to get that now into slope-intercept form. So this is my point-slope formula. To get that into slope-intercept, y subtract 0 is just y. Negative 1 multiplied by x is negative 1x. And negative 1 multiplied by negative 3 is add 3. So y equals -1x add 3. That's going to be my slope-intercept formula. I'm going to do the same thing for got at D. My slope is y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1, which is -12 over 6, which is -2. So now I'm going to plug that into my point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to my slope multiplied by x subtract x1. Oops, this should be y subtract y1. y1 is 2. I'm going to simplify my point slope equation to be y subtract 2 is equal to -2 multiplied by x plus 1. So that's going to be my point slope. And then in slope intercept, let's solve for y. So y subtract 2 is equal to -2x subtract 2. Then I'm going to add 2 to both sides. To get y is equal to -2x, and that's it. So that is my slope-intercept form. In example 4, it says the cost of assistance dog training sessions is shown in the table. Write an equation in point slope form to represent the cost y of attending X dog training sessions. Find the slope of the line, then use the slope and one of the points to write the equation of the line. So they did the slope formula to find the slope of 125 over 5, or just 25. And then they plugged it in with the first point to the point slope formula to get y subtract 165 is equal to 25 multiplied by x subtract 5. And then they left the equation in point slope form. Let's do the same thing for example 4. It says the cost of different numbers of paper plates at a party supply store is shown in the table. Write an equation in point slope form to represent the cost y of buying X paper plates. So cost is y, buying paper X is paper plates. So this is X, this is y. My change here was +5, and my change over here was +20. So my change in y over my change in x is 5 over 20, which can be simplified to 1/4. So that's my slope, or you can think of it as x1, y1, x2, y2. So m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 subtract x1. So 10 subtract 5 over 40 subtract 20, which is 5 over 20, which is 1/4. Now that I know my slope, I'm going to plug in my slope and my x1, y1 into the point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x minus x1. So when I plug in my values, I get y minus 5 is equal to 1/4 x subtract 20. And that is my final answer. Go ahead and try got a E, and then resume this video when you're done. Got a E says the cost for making spirit buttons is shown in the table. Write an equation in point-slope form to represent the cost Y of making X buttons. So again, we have X, Y, we can call this X1, X2, Y1, Y2. I need to find my slope, which is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 subtract X1. So I'm going to plug in 35 subtract 25 over 150 subtract 100. 10 over 50, which is equal to 1 over 5. So my slope is 1 over 5. I'm going to plug that into my point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to m multiplied by x minus x1. So I get y subtract 100 is equal to 1/5 of x subtract 25.